This is CSI Checklist number 13, Hate and Bias Crimes. Let's run down through the checklist so you have a better appreciation of what's contained in the listing, so you understand how it can help you in responding to a hate or bias crime. 13A identifies terminology and indicators, gives you a distinction between a hate and bias crime and a hate and bias incident, which is not criminal in nature. 13A3, bias indicators of a hate crime, differences between a perpetrator and a victim, similar incidents in the same location. So it gives you an opportunity to start looking at and thinking about the types of things that you're looking for to determine whether this in fact is a crime or an incident. (13B) Hate and bias categories. 13B1 lists the federal criminal statutes related to hate and bias crimes. 13B2, federal civil statutes relating to those incidences. And 13B3, state, local, and federal bias crime laws specific to various type activities. 13B4, legal criteria considered for determining gender-based hate crimes. 13C goes into law enforcement response to a hate crime. So when you respond, if you're the initial responder, the types of things that you'd be looking for, questions that you need to ask and consider. Observations to be made. 13C2, initial screening questions for the victim or the reporting person of the hate crime. (13C) assessment of victims' injuries, physical injuries, emotional injuries, financial related injuries. 13C5, types of incidences that may occur in more detail than previously. 13C6, types of locations where the incident occurred, to ensure that you, in your reporting, you identify specifically where these activities occurred. Or if there were multiple locations, these give you ideas and things to consider. 13C7, victim identity markers. 13D, the continued investigation. These are specifically for the reporting officer and the supervisor. 13D2, the follow-up investigation. 13D3, supporting the victims while investigating hate crimes. What can you do to help the victim deal and cope with being victimized by a hate or bias crime? (13D4), law enforcement personnel behaviors to avoid. Things that you need to ensure that you don't do so you don't affect the outcome. 13D5, victims' reluctancy to report or participate in the investigation. As a reporting officer, you need to consider these things when you're interviewing victims and witnesses. 13D6, continuing role for law enforcement when investigating hate crimes. What goes beyond your initial activities that you need to consider? What are those continued responsibilities? Now, giving some details to hate groups. 13E, ideology of hate groups. Who are they? What is their concerns? What are they called? 13F, bias crime offender categories. 13F1, thrill-seeking offenders. 13F2, reactive offenders. 13F3, mission offenders. 13F4, offender characteristics. Which deal with what's their relationship to the victim. 13G, issues to address when assisting bias crime victims. And you can always go back to the resource section to get more information, and you'll see United States Department of Justice hate crimes, response to hate crimes, a police officer's guide to investigating and prevention. Another one, a multidisciplinary curriculum for law enforcement and victim assistance professionals, improving the identification, investigation, and reporting of hate crimes. And Hate Map, the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map to identify where these activities are associated.